Hey plant friends! Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darylyn and today I have something for you that I've been working on literally for several months. Back over the summer, I imported a large order of Philodendron El Choco Red from Ecuador. I received them, acclimated them, got them all set up, rehabbed them and whatnot, and I filmed the entire process to share with all of you. I have gotten a lot of comments in the past, just anecdotally from people in the plant community, not even on YouTube, that Philodendron El Choco Red is really hard to propagate and they can be very hit or miss as far as acclimating them from import is concerned. I know a number of people who have tragically lost their chocos that have come in from overseas because they didn't have any roots. So I've been very fortunate that I've had pretty much 100% success with acclimating them, propagating them and whatnot. So I'm here to share my methods. I hope you guys like this. I hope it's informative. It is kind of meant to be an informational, more instructional video, so it is a bit longer than I generally tend to like these videos to end up, but I hope that it's helpful. If you want to see the results, please stick around to the end. And without much further ado, we will get into it. However, really quick, please do me a solid, give this video a like, maybe even subscribe. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And don't be shy. Please leave any questions you may have for me about this in the comments below. I am going to do my best to answer all of the questions because I know cutting plants can be scary. So if you are thinking you want to try and propagate your El Choco Red, or you want to order one, you want to import one, you're afraid it's not going to turn up in particularly good condition, or maybe you have one that you want to rehab, I'm here to answer as many questions as possible. So go ahead and leave those down below. And let's get into it. This is how I acclimate and propagate Philodendron El Choco Red with pretty much 100% success. I hope you guys enjoy. Here we go. All right, so I have 5 Philodendron El Choco Red that I received in the mail from Ecuador a couple of days ago. They've arrived in varying states of happiness. Some of them look pretty much fine, some of them look really beat to hell. And I just had them sitting in water for the past couple of days just to kind of rehydrate. So now that they've had a few days to rehydrate, it's time to get them settled into their situations that they will be in while they rehab over the next month to several months, depending on what they need. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is just take a look at these and kind of look at the roots. Anytime that you're importing plants, chances are that the roots are going to be pretty rough. Generally, when I get chocos in the mail, I don't expect there to be any roots. So let's kind of take a look. I guess first is this very, very sad looking one. And you may be thinking, oh no, like what a tragedy, what a crisis. But if you take a look, the growth point on there is perfectly fine. It's nice and green. So this one I would say has a really good shot of eventually sprouting new growth out of that growth point and making it just fine. Unfortunately, it looks like a lot of these roots are rotted, but also some look like they might be salvageable. So you can take a look. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut off the ones that look really black. The ones that look light color or more red, I'm gonna go ahead and leave on there. I'm also gonna trim off any of the little extra kind of like just pieces, plant pieces that's on there. So we have a nice clean environment. I just have a little bowl to collect my plant waste, and I have clean shears right here. So really quick, I'm just gonna cut all of this extra nasty stuff off. Some of the roots look okay, so I'm gonna leave those. Okay, so I've gone ahead and cleaned this off. As you can see, I've left a couple of roots on there that looked pretty healthy. This is not to say that these roots are going to be 100% good. It's very possible that in a couple of days or a couple of weeks they could also start showing signs of rot, but for now they look okay, so we're going to give them a chance. And it actually works out that this plant does have a couple of roots that look semi-viable because it has no viable leaves. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the leaves. Because of the state of this plant, I'm not gonna be able to rehab it the way that I normally rehab chocos. I'm going to have to just put it into sphagnum moss and then put it in my grow tent. So I'm gonna cut the leaves off. There's just really no point in keeping them since they are not viable. So here we are left with our chunk that has the growth point attached. For this one, it's pretty simple. I'm just gonna put it into a container in some sphagnum moss that I've already moistened. I'm just gonna kind of wrap it up really well in this spag, and then I'm gonna put it in my grow tent and basically just leave it there. I've never had to do this before with an imported Choco, but I did get a rehab Choco chunk from a friend of mine in a local group recently, and I did this method with that one and it is rooting in the grow tent just fine. So I'm pretty confident that this plant will rebound. It's just gonna take quite a bit longer than the other ones. Okay, so you can see this is our final result for the one that had no viable leaves. It is nice and nestled into that sphagnum moss. The growth point is out, and if you notice, I pushed the sphagnum moss as close to the base of that cataphyll as possible. That's because the new roots are probably going to come from the new nodes that haven't pushed out roots yet. My experience is generally once a chunk or a stem has pushed out roots and they have died or rotted off, that same place doesn't push more. So it's best to give the new nodes a chance to get going on rooting in that sphagnum moss as much as possible. So that's that one right there. So next we have this one. It looks like, although the existing leaves didn't make it, it does have a new leaf, and this leaf feels firm and it looks like it's opening just fine. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the rotted roots on here. It looks like this one also managed to have a few that might hang on. So I'm gonna go ahead and snip off the rot. Okay, so this one, it looks like it still has some roots that are potentially viable, and it has a new leaf. So what I'm gonna do is actually remove these old leaves because, I mean, they're not helping anybody at this point. So this is what we have left, and because this plant has some roots that might be viable and it only has this new leaf, this little one, I am gonna go ahead and also put this one into moss and put it into the grow tent. If the roots end up rotting or the leaf dies or something, I may change my approach, but I think that this is gonna give this plant the best chance going forward. Hopefully those little roots that we had in there will be viable enough to start rooting in the spag, and then this leaf will continue to unfurl and harden off in the grow tent, and we will have a nice happy plant in a couple of weeks. Once again, I just want to get the sphagnum moss like up as high as possible. I might take this out and reposition it so that I can get as much covering the cataphyll as possible. Making messes, as we do on this channel. All right, this looks like it's positioned a little bit better. Okay, so that's two. Then I think the rest of these are going to be a little bit more typical to what I normally receive. Yeah, this one, it looks like the leaves are for the most part pretty okay. And it looks like it's actually trying to push a new leaf right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually cut off all of these roots because they're all just completely black and they're not helping anybody by being still on there. So we're just gonna remove them all, not worry too much about it. This one came out really pretty. I think it looks really cute. Oh, I love chocos. They're just great plants. All right, so for this one, because it is a little bit more similar to what I normally get when I import these plants, I'm going to treat it the same way. So I'm actually going to cut this chunk off. I know, scary. And then put it into water. And I think that those other two plants will be able to do the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at this chunk, and it looks like there is a bud here. I don't know if you can see that. It's like a white little thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut above that with my shears. I know these are really hard to cut through, but that should do it right there. Okay. So now I've got a newly cut chunk, and this is going to go into moss in my grow tent. And I have a newly cut plant. So I am going to go ahead and put this aside for now, and we'll check out the other two, and I'll tell you what I'm gonna do with them when we're done looking at all of them. Okay, so this is kind of the same story as the other one. I'm gonna go ahead and remove all the rot. It's very important that you remove the rot. Okay, so there's no viable roots on here, so I'm actually just gonna go ahead and remove them all because they're just rotting, and it's just gonna make the environment for the plant less sterile. All right, so removing all the rotted roots. Such a shame. This plant actually did kind of have a lot of roots, so it's a shame to waste them. Now we've got a nice clean chunk. This leaf actually looks like pretty okay. I think it's viable. This other one though, maybe not as much. All right, so now we've got that, and then I'm gonna go ahead and same thing, I'm going to remove this chunk. I see a bud right here, so I'm going to cut above that. All right, so I've got a plant that's been released of its chunk, and I've got the chunk, and this leaf on here, it looks brand new, but it's not doing so well, so I kind of don't expect it to make it. I am going to leave all of the leaves on this one though, but the sheath from the caterpillar from the old growth is really mushy, so I am gonna remove that, because I don't want it to rot anything. But other than that, this plant looks okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick it into this vase with the other one. Okay, last but not least, looks like we have this one, and let's see, what are we looking at as far as roots go? Oh, maybe a few. There's a couple that have still red on them. This one's completely rotted. So the way you tell if roots are rotted is that if they are mushy or they kind of break apart as you pull them down. For the most part, if you see a root and it looks like dark brown or black, it's probably rotted. So if you just kind of pull gently and they come off, you know that that root is rotted. Once again, this plant had a ton of root, and now it's probably going to be quite shocked by having so much of it removed, but it is what it is. I mean, it's not anything that I could have probably prevented. This chunk is kind of weird. It's like tall and skinny, but this leaf looks fine, like for sure good. This one might hang on for a while, and it is trying to push a new one, which seems pretty healthy and I think has a decent chance of surviving. I'm just trying to decide now if I want to cut this or not, and I think I'm going to, because these roots that are still on here, I mean, they could go bad at any moment, and they're pretty far down the chunk. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. The problem with this one is that the buds that I see on here are both pretty high up, which, well, that might be a bud. I think it'll be fine. I just, you know, like prefer to cut where I for sure see a bud, but it'll probably be fine. So I'm just gonna cut it here. And that was easy. So now I have 3 chunks and I have 3 plants that I had put into this vase. So I'm actually gonna probably end up putting them in here long term. What I've had a lot of success with Chocos is water propagating. So I've just got some tap water right here. I'm gonna pour it in. It's kind of tricky because I don't want the caterpillars to be submerged or the new leaves coming in, but I do want the tops of the highest nodes to be covered with water. So it's a little tricky, but just add a little bit more, get that nice and covered. So I'm gonna add a little bit of Super Thrive and some hydrogen peroxide to this. The hydrogen peroxide just kind of helps oxygenate the water and stimulates root growth. That way, also it keeps it sterile. And the Super Thrive is kind of like a vitamin. I just put in like a healthy squirt of the hydrogen peroxide and then a couple drops of Super Thrive. You don't want to exceed 1 drop per cup of the Super Thrive, and you don't want to exceed 1 tablespoon per cup of the hydrogen peroxide. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these beauties back into their little spa. So that's what we've got there. And then I'm going to go ahead and take them to the plant room, aka my bedroom, and put them in a nice bright spot. You can see they are in there, and I'm surprised that it hasn't already started bubbling, so we'll add a little bit more of this. And then I'm going to put these chunks into my grow tent. I only grabbed 2 containers, so I will put these into containers and then put them in the tent. Hey everybody, so I just finished filming another video, but really quickly I wanted to show you the progress that I've been seeing on the El Choco Red propagations. So they're right here behind me in water, and I'm gonna show you really quick. So here they are right here. This is 3 of the 5 that we took out and cut and put into water together. And as you can see, for the most part, we've got a lot of pretty good looking leaves. It looks like this one is probably gonna go. This one actually is looking pretty okay. And then if we look in here into the vase, this leaf, hard to see. It's like not very red, but this leaf here, when I unboxed the plants, it was still fully in the caterpillar, it was just poking out. So it's pushed itself out and it looks like it is gonna be okay. And then there's this leaf here. That leaf has also pushed itself up quite a bit and it is starting to unfurl a little bit. And then if we look down into the water, you can see that this right here, this chunk has already started to produce some rooting crystals. So that is the plant putting out essentially a growth hormone to stimulate rooting. So that plant here has the rooting crystals. And then if we turn it over here, this plant over here also has some. There's one here, there's a little one there, there's one there. And then let's see if the other one on the other side also has rooting crystals. Maybe not quite yet. But I will say though, the reason that I did put them all into one vase together, aside from wanting to save space, is that I'm hoping that since these are a little bit less mature plants than I normally propagate, I was hoping that if one of them wasn't producing the rooting crystals from the other plants might help stimulate it. So I don't know, we'll have to see if that experiment works out or not. But so far they're doing really, really well. So let me take you over to the grow tent and I'll show you what is cooking in there. Okay, so here we are in the grow tent and there's a lot of chocos in here. So the first one was actually a plant. It has a leaf. See, it's there over there in the corner. Let's see if I can get it out of here. So here she is. So I stuck this plant into moss and into the grow tent instead of cutting it and putting it into water because The only leaf it had was this brand new one, and I just wasn't sure if it was going to be way too much stress on the plant. And also the chunk still had some root attached to it that looked okay. So we're going to try rooting this one in moss for now. But this leaf has completely unfurled, and it looks like it's going to continue to harden off. So she should be good to go. Might take a little longer, I'm not really sure. So I'm going to put her back in her spot where she lives. The others that came in at the same time are actually in these 3 cups in the back, and none of them have shown any kind of action. So I think they just probably need some more time. So this one came in with those chocos. It did have a couple leaves, as you can see, these black kind of gross petiole stumps, but it just didn't have any juice left in them. They were both not long for the world, so I just went ahead and cut them off. It's in here. Hopefully it does okay. I think it will, because I actually have another one that this was one from a friend of mine. It was just a chunk with a caterpillar, and it is now rooting. Oh, that's a root. It's now rooting in here, and it looks like it is about to push a leaf. So I think there's really good likelihood that all of these choco chunks are gonna do great in the grow tent. And then this right here is one that I cut kind of a while ago, but as you can see, we've got a little baby tiny leaf, we've got a little caterpillar, and then we've got not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 little buds on there, and they may not all make it, but it's really exciting. So that's your update. More soon when I have more to share. Hopefully next time we will have some roots and maybe even some new leaves. So we've got a lot of girls in here that are doing really good. So we've got this one that just opened a new leaf. We've got a whole bunch of the ones that were propping in water in here. They're all looking pretty good. So this right here is one of the plants that when it arrived to me, it had all damaged leaves, and I basically just had to cut them off. All that was left was a caterpillar, and it is now, ooh, look how red. Ooh, that's so pretty. But yeah, it's done really well. When I stuck it in here, it started pushing a leaf almost immediately. So very, very pleased with the outcome on that. And then we've got some more. Here's another little leaf that just popped a few days ago. So cute. I actually had so many chocos that I traded one of the chunks for this Philodendron Dean McDowell. So I'm really excited to see what that leaf looks like when it comes out. And then we've got this one in the back. She's doing really well. Woo! Her caterpillar is so chunky. I wouldn't be surprised if she pushed a leaf like really soon. And then there's so many choco chunks in here. Like there's 4 back there. And there's one that has a nice big bud on it. Looks like it's got 2 buds, but the top one is bigger. I'm not sure there's growth showing up on the other ones yet, but that's okay. They could just be taking their time. And then there's also this one. This was another one of the plants that arrived and it had no viable leaves. So I just cut them off and put the chunk into moss and stuck it in the grow tent, and it is doing really well. Adorable little leaf there. Not as red as the other one, but still very, very beautiful. So she's doing good. Aww, Grow Tent Choco twins. They're so cute. And then this one is a special story because this one is actually not mine. It belongs to a plant friend of mine, and she actually posted this
on a local Facebook group. It was just a chunk with a cataphil, and she said it wasn't bringing her joy, so she offered it up for trade. And I, as you can see, like, don't need any more chacos, so like I was interested in some other stuff she posted. But I went to her house to pick up the other stuff, and she's like, do you want the choco chunk? And I was just like, oh, you know, I don't really need it. And she's like, I should just give it to you. And I was like, how about this? I will take it and I will put it in my grow tent, and if it is revived, I'll give it back. So clearly it's doing just fine. It has revived. It rooted a ton. And she had it in her Mills bow, and it was just a chunk with a cataphil in soil in the Mills bow. And when she gave it to me, I took it out of the soil, and there were absolutely 0 viable roots. So I stuck it in moss, stuck it in the grow tent, and I don't know, probably took like maybe 5 or 6 weeks. But yeah, here we are. I've got a little baby leaf. It's so cute. And I'm so excited to give this back to his forever home with his mom, who loves him very much and let me revive him for her. So chacos are just great plants, and they're really not super hard to propagate. You can totally do it. It's just, you gotta know what you're doing. Gotta make sure that whatever your propagation medium is pulled up over the top of the new nodes at the top, because that is where, for the most part, the roots are gonna come from. So you can do it in water, you can do it in perlite, you can do it in sphagnum moss, but you just gotta make sure that whichever method you choose, you are covering up those top nodes, and high humidity always helps. Look at all these chacos, there's so many. Excuse me while I just play Grow Tent Jenga, but I've really been enjoying all these little babies, and hopefully they'll be ready to go to their forever homes soon. I'd like to get a couple more leaves on them, on most of them, hopefully. But got some other cute plants in here. We got this Queen Anthurium is doing amazing. She wins the prize for easiest to acclimate Queen Anthurium ever in the history of the universe. She is giving me a leaf. Like, oh, I can't wait to have Queen Anthurium descend to people, you know? Like, I don't know though, it's gonna be difficult for me to give that one up because it's so good. Like, I might keep it because it's so hardy, but here's another one up here. And she's just in perlite because she didn't have any roots when I got her. There's a few more roundabouts. This is an Anthurium waterburyanum Wolfganum cross, and it's doing really well. This kind of got a little bit like off topic, but my point here was to update you on how the chacos in the grow tent are doing, and the answer to that is that they're doing amazing. We've got tons of new leaves, we've got tons of new roots. So if you're thinking about importing a choco, definitely have a high humidity kind of area ready for it. And if not, you can still definitely do water prop. Just make sure that you're getting the water up and over the top of the newest nodes. That's it. Hey plant friends, so here we are on the final installment of the Propagating Philodendron El Choco Red series. I'm here in my greenhouse because I ran out of space in my house, so I had to bring some of the Choco babies here. They're actually doing pretty well. I need to get a shade cloth for the greenhouse that's reflective, because I think the problem in here, some of the plants aren't doing the best, is because it just gets way too hot. I have this really cool thermometer thing that I can download the temperature readings from, so I've been seeing some of the temperature spikes at like 100 degrees, and it's just excessive. So I ordered that today. It's a learning experience, but everything in here is still doing pretty well regardless. I actually did just get back from a week-long vacation. We went up to visit my mom, and actually we were supposed to pick up a dog that we were going to adopt, but it didn't end up working out. She didn't really seem interested in us, and she wouldn't come near us, so no dog. But I have Philodendron El Choco Red, so hopefully that's a close consolation prize. But they're here, they're cute. I love chacos. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this around so that you can see a little bit better, because it's kind of difficult, but I will show you how 4 out of the 5 are doing. The other one is still in my grow tent, and I left it in there because I wanted it to push the leaf completely that it was pushing before I brought it over. So that's why the 5th one's not here. But really quick, let me flip you around. So ta-da, here they are. And you know, when I came in here, I was kind of thinking like, oh, they don't look that good, but actually no, they do look good. It's it's kind of dark in here, so they don't look as beautiful as they would if the light was hitting them, but they're actually all doing really, really, really well. The only exception is this one got a little bit sunburnt, but this leaf emerged in the grow tent. It was the leaf that was in the caterpillar when the plant shipped to me, so I don't think it was a particularly resilient leaf, and it got quite sunburned, but the other leaf on the plant is fine and the roots look really good. So let me just show you what we are looking at. I'm gonna stand up because squatting down there is just really difficult, but all right, so here is the one that I had started in LECA. I left it in water to root, and then after a little while, got some roots, added some LECA, and it started to root really nicely. See all those nice, pretty LECA roots? And there's some all the way down the bottom. It's doing really, really well. This was the shipping leaf, actually, and it looks pretty stellar, you know, considering it still looks really good. This is the leaf that it put out most recently in my care. I think this leaf came out after it started rooting up in the LECA, and then as you can see, it's working on another one. And this leaf was not popping out when I left this here. I think I brought the plants over here like 2 weeks ago. So I'm really pleased with this one. I would like to get some new leaves with a little bit more size on them before I offer this one for sale. But yeah, it's doing well. I think, you know, it could use a little bit of LECA added on top there so that the new roots have a little bit more coverage, but very pleased with this one. So this one was one of the ones where all of the shipping leaves died and all I had was a chunk and a caterpillar. When I went to take it out of the box, all the leaves were dead. It is doing great. I'm very, very pleased with how this plant fared. This plant gave this leaf, which was the one in the caterpillar when I got it from the shipment, pushed it out in the grow tent, no problem. Then it popped this leaf out, which is adorable. Not as big, but still very adorable. And it's in moss, but I've got some nice roots there and there. And it's doing really, really well. The foliage looks good. Little caterpillar is right there. So I'm hoping that it starts to give me some size soon, and that would be excellent. Then we have this one, which it dried out a lot while I was on vacation, and that was my bad. It's not in a very big container, so that was unfortunate, but it's still doing okay. This leaf is a little damaged from falling over when it dried out. It got top heavy and fell over, but other than that, it's fine. The shipping leaf looks amazing, and it looks like it's going to be giving us something new that looks pretty big. So very, very happy with this little guy. Gorgeous, gorgeous rootage up in there. And yeah, I'm very happy with the results on that one. This one unfortunately got a little sunburned. That's my bad. I'm still learning how to kind of keep this greenhouse. The shade cloth I ordered should fix that problem in the future, but the other leaf is fine. And now that I moved it to a shadier spot, it will probably pop a new leaf pretty quickly. The roots look great. This was, yeah, there's a nice one right there. Nice root right there. This was another one that when I got it from the shipment, all the shipping leaves died and I was just left with a caterpillar on a stump, and it pushed this leaf out. This leaf was beautiful. Oh, such a shame. But pushed this leaf in the grow tent and then it pushed this little one. So hoping to get some more size on it before it's offered for sale. But yeah, that's essentially all the chocos. They're doing really, really well. So if you are thinking about importing a choco or propagating yours, I hope that this was helpful. They can be a little bit tricky, but if you know what you're doing, they're not too bad. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I will definitely try and answer as many as possible. And yeah, that's pretty much that. I hope you guys have a good one. Bye.